Well, guys, here we are, and we are now living in a interesting time. Per that Chinese curse, may be born in an interesting time, right? So, see, we got a little floral background here to match my flowery disposition, right? So, this video may or may not involve quite a bit of profanity, or just more than usual. It may not. I don't really plan these things in advance, and this is no exception. But obviously, there are a lot of people out there who are very frightened, very angry, very sort of freaked out in general. And we did not need. So this is obviously, I don't need to tell you. You figured it out by now. There is a slightly political bent to at least the introduction to this talk, because we're going to move on from there into some personal and psychological issues. However, setting the stage for the need for this conversation is going to be very, very much to do with topical, political, socio-cultural type events. Got it? So if that's not your cup of tea right now, just bear with me, because we are going to get past that, and we are going to be talking more about the usual conversation about self-development issues. But this stuff is not disconnected from the world of current events. Not at all. Current events are usually providing you with a ceaseless stream of opportunities to practice this stuff. And what's been going down lately is the mother lode of opportunities to practice patience and emotional intelligence and uh, processing things like anger, which is exactly what we're going to get into in just a moment. So let's just kind of take stock of where we are at right now, because for the last at least 18, 20, 22 months, there has been a building and just ever escalating level of, if I could use a very polite word, concern, right? That would be pretty watered down, right? Because what have we had going on? We've got all of these just outrageous police shootings of unarmed African Americans getting just basically killed, sometimes over as little as a broken tail light, and these guys get off the hook. That no charges pressed or charges are dismissed. Huge miscarriage of justice, again, to put it mildly. That has been making a lot of people not just angry but scared for their own lives. It's easy to just be concerned when you're white or Hispanic or Asian American or what have you. But if you're African American and you see lots of people who look a lot like you and aren't committing any more crimes than you are, dead in the street over nothing, then it's not just concerning, right? It's terrifying. You're afraid for your life, the life of your family, your kids, your neighbors, your friends. It's this is serious life and death shit, people. And and then what else? I mean, obviously there's things with the economy that are just generally going on, but then we had this whole presidential election, and me and everyone I knew was just watching this circus of depravity and vulgarity just going on and on and on. And I think a lot of us just dismissed the idea that this could wind up where it has, where we have essentially used our democratic process to vote people who are really out and out fascists into the executive branch of our government. So really, a lot of us are just watching and waiting to see if the checks and balances systems and the systems of due process will hold up under the pressure of really some very sinister people. Some of them are just stupid and colorful and sort of inept type people, but they've given power to people who are not quite so bumbling, people who are legitimately scary people. And if you're a woman, if you're a Muslim, if you're in the LGBT community, if your skin is any kind of dark in any way whatsoever, believe me, I am concerned for you. And don't listen to anyone who tells you that things will be fine. So that's it for politics, guys. Okay. So if your politics don't match with my politics, then here's where the rest of this is a little more on even footing for everybody, right? But the fact is, people are pissed. Lots of people are pissed, and we need to talk about this in a constructive way, because there's just a lot of wrong-headed talk going on all sides, and a lot of it has to do with people carrying their anger too far, saying things that are really going to do more harm than good at the end of the day when all is said and done, and also people trying to shut people down for being upset. So this really is going to be about what is the proper role for anger in your life. And when I say in your life, what I really mean is your internal emotional life, because quite frankly, there is no place for anger in your relationships with other people. There's no place for anger in your actions, because it's destructive. It's fire itself. It's the analog of fire inside of you emotionally, and that just burns things. And we are not interested in burning things. We are interested in healing, in moving forward, in understanding ourselves first, because then you've gone from cacophony to harmony inside, and you can actually understand other people. So you've got to understand yourself first and understand others and have compassion and empathy for others. Doesn't mean that other people are going to be insulated from the consequences of their actions, but it's the burden is on you when you hold hate in your heart for anybody. So that's we don't want any of that going on. We want to pursue the kinds of changes that we all feel so desperately need to happen. And we want to really minimize the influence of harmful actors in our society. But it doesn't do us any favors to hate those people. So let's really get into what anger is, what it is not, how it can be used, and how it must not be used. With me? So we get into so basically I'll summarize it this way. We get angry when we feel like a boundary of ours has been crossed or compromised. And that could be anything, right? Here's just a few things that it could be. It could be just having an all around bad day that's just sunk your state of mind to this low point, and you feel like you can't do anything about it, right? It could be a parking ticket. It could be a bill that you're not sure how you're going to pay. It could be the fact that you keep making the same mistakes and you feel really trapped by patterns, either psychologically or behaviorally. It could be something someone said to you. It could be all this awful situation happening in our public life that I just talked about, and it can just make you feel powerless. When something crosses your boundaries and it starts to make you feel this way or that way, usually it's when it makes you feel bad, right? So something crosses your boundaries and starts to influence you and makes you feel great, like maybe you've just fallen in love with somebody or something like that, right? So I don't think anyone has a problem with that. But when something comes into our life and starts to manipulate our emotions towards sadness and powerlessness, then our sovereignty has been breached. Got it? So one of two things can happen. We can either get sad or we can get mad. And in a lot of ways, being mad can be more useful than being sad or depressed, because when you get depressed about it, when you see these forces outside of you positioned malignantly towards your interests, whatever that might mean, right? I'm just speaking generally because this is a generalized phenomenon. When it's positioned in a threatening way towards you, whether that's real or imagined, it doesn't matter, because that's how you are feeling. And your emotional experience is your reality, to the degree that once it takes on that meaning for you, it's like a domino effect. So you have to reframe the meaning of it. And when you get paralyzed by this force positioned against you, then you get this weight in your chest. It's a physical sensation. I like the word feelings more than the word emotions, because the fact is that you are feeling this. It's a sensation in your body, and listening to your body is where you start when you are trying to figure out exactly where you're at. And if you are flowing with your inner self, which really just means your psycho-emotional dimension, it's not something very abstract or woo-woo. It's just your thoughts and your feelings, right? So are you flowing with that activity? Are you in tune, or are you putting up roadblocks, and are you in denial, and are you avoiding? So it's that avoidance thing again. So check out my video called Radical Honesty to talk because I talk quite a bit about how do you learn to sit with feelings that are hard to sit with. What does it even mean to sit with feelings? So I do talk about that at length. I'm not going to talk about that here. So I'm not just plugging another blog. I'm saying that these are very related conversations. So get the complete picture. I did lay it out a few videos ago, which you can easily find. If you're watching this, you can easily find that just a few clicks away from wherever you are now. But if you're getting that weight in your chest from that sadness, and what happens? You start to slow down because there's an action that you want to take immediately, but that weight settles in and gets heavier and heavier and heavier. And what does it do? This is why it's a problem. It reinforces ideas of victimization, of powerlessness. This is happening to me, and your sense of personal agency is being stripped from you because you have now put so much distance. It happens very quickly, alarmingly quickly, that there's a tremendous amount of distance put between you and your sense of initiative. Because when you don't take action, when you feel the urge to do so, the longer you wait, the more you're just in your head, and the more you've lost your intuitive read on what needs to be done about whatever this is. Something always has to be done. Maybe it's just to think about it a certain way, or to just acknowledge the emotion, or to take some kind of action out there in the world. But when your sense of powerlessness in the face of this obstacle or this situation just cools you down, weighs you down in the chest, again, it's always physical sensation here, then nothing is happening and you just feel out of control. And what happens is, if you stay in there too long, then it's like you start vacillating between depression and anger, and it's not useful anger. It's the anger, and I will talk about useful anger in just a moment. But let's talk about the kind of anger that happens when you've been paralyzed by the enormity of a situation. When you doubt that you have, when you doubt that you have the resources or the patience or the insight or the talent or the wisdom or the time to deal with a situation, that's when you do nothing at all, and you avoid and you postpone, and your sense of being in control just goes down, and eventually you get pissed. But if you wait too long, that pissed is not the kind of piss that gets you in gear. It's the kind of piss that just makes you resentful, because you actually resent yourself for not basically being in control of your life, reclaiming control when something tries to take it from you. And it's sort of like you have your own border patrol. It's probably the wrong metaphor to use in light of everything that's going on, but you have boundaries. You have your own sovereignty as a person, and when something breaches that, again, you got to reclaim it as quickly as possible. And what I'm going to tell you is that the way that you do reclaim it, and the way that you use anger in a constructive way, and this is in a very limited sense. Got it? So we're not talking about just going around being an angry person, and I'm advocating for that. What I'm saying is anger does one thing only, and the second it's done, you get rid of it, which is anger is to turn the key in the ignition. If your car is stuck on the train tracks, okay, and there's a train coming, like in one of these old movies or something, good time to turn the key in the ignition, right? I would think that would be the first order of business. That's what anger is. It takes you from a state of immobilization, of paralysis, of depression, of victimization, of powerlessness. It turns the key in the ignition, and vroom, right? You are up and running, and you are mobilized, galvanized. There's an animating energy behind you now. Now, that animating energy is not anger itself. Anger is the spark that takes you from inert to activated. Super important, okay? And we'll get into how to use it like a tool in a constructive way in just a moment. But let me just frame for you, this is all about the conceptual framework that puts this in a light in your mind. It positions the idea where it works. Because chances are, it's, unless you are very good at this stuff or you've done this kind of work before, the haphazard way that anger finds its place in your mind is the way you learned by modeling the behavior of others growing up. So unless you were around some very evolved, very emotionally intelligent, self-aware type people, probably anger is not quite working for you the way that it needs to be. And really, there's only one right way to do anger, honestly. Anger is to turn the key in the ignition to fire you up. Now, I use that metaphor because everybody knows that you really can mess up your car very quickly if you just keep turning the key once the engine's running. You hear that awful sound, right? So anger is not the way you want to live your life, but it will snap you out of the doldrums. And honestly, what I do is and this is, I warned you, okay? So here we are. When I get into that place where I just feel like, gosh, I'm just powerless against this, whatever this is, like if the world is just on my shoulders, I just go, man, fuck that. The fuck am I going to just let this thing steamroll over me and ruin my day, ruin my peace of mind, ruin my life? There is just no fucking way, man. And this is how I talk to myself. And I just go, fuck that, right? If I wasn't holding the phone, I would just bring my fist into the palm of my hand, because it snaps you out of it. Just honestly, just whether out loud, if you're by yourself, okay, not in public, or just internally, it's just the words, fuck that, fuck that. It's powerful. And what happens is you feel a heat in the pit of your stomach, and what that heat is doing is you will also simultaneously feel that weight in your chest fading. Okay? And now what's happened is there's nothing stopping. There's a flow of energy in your body. Gotta get this. And it's from the bottom up, because there's that heat in the pit of your stomach, and it's rising up, and it's relieving the weight in the chest. And then it's sort of just going up and out, right? And you can learn to actually, this is a physical sensation in your body. This is not something sort of psycho-spiritual or out there, or I'm not talking about chakras or anything like that, right? What am I saying? I'm saying you can feel energy flowing in your body. This is a fact. So it needs to be expressed somehow. When you verbalize it like that, when you actually say those words, fuck that, you have to just really trust me. You don't believe me? Trust me, right? Because there's a kind of reclaiming of your power when you say, no, I banish this out of my energy. I banish this from my space. I'm in control. I'm not in control of anything but me. But you better believe I am in control of me. And anything that tries to take that from me, no fucking way, man. Okay? It's good to put your foot down with those kinds of things. Not with anything else, not towards other people or situations or the DMV or the government or airport security. No, they're in control. Sorry, not sorry. That's just the way it is. But you're in control of you, which means you're in control of your thoughts, your feelings, where your attention is, what it is that what you're looking at means to you. What does it mean? And what must be done about that? That is all within your control. Not much else is. So those things, your attention, your intention, the meaning assigned or no meaning assigned, that's within your control. And if you don't lay claim to those things, then you're going to get tossed around like a rag doll by things that are completely outside of your control. So you'd better get into that driver's seat, affirmative, just empowered and self-initiating frame of mind. And if you just like from your gut, if you're just like, fuck that. So I did it again. See, I mean, I think you can tell, like, it's working, right? Like you just watch it working on me. If you're too scared to do it, but don't be, right? So, but see, that is the right way. That is the right way to do it, because anger born of resentment, oh no, that just eats at your character. It eats at your integrity. It eats away at who you are. and nobody can afford that. But if you do it out of contempt, see, if you want some heavy lifting, go read Friedrich Nietzsche's Genealogy of Morals, because he talks about the difference between resentment and contempt, and that difference is everything. Because see, when I just bring down that hammer of fuck that on a situation, it's not, I don't resent, there's no resentment, but there is contempt. Contempt for these sort of rascal hyenas in my midst that are now being banished by nothing but me exerting my own authority over myself. And what happens is that gives way to this clarity of determination. How about that? Just a flash of anger, that's all it takes. And then you feel powerful again. Not powerful by, again, not powerful by putting someone else down, by taking out your anger on someone else, but just using your anger to reclaim your sovereignty and to banish the sense of victimization, the sense of not being in control. Banish it with that fire. And then what happens is you feel significant, you feel in control, you feel strong. And then that intuition, you're in an intuitive place now, because you've brought yourself back into alignment. You are in control of yourself. No one else ever is, or has been, or ever will be. But when you imagine it to be otherwise, you're in a state of, let's say, existential incoherence, where your intuition is being short-circuited by a belief that does not match up with reality. You are in control. No one else has ever been, is not now, will ever be in control of you. When you imagine otherwise, it's like imagining that the earth, that the sun actually revolves around the earth. We know that is not true. Sometimes it looks like it is, but it's not. Got it? So it should be very easy to see what needs to be done from there, because now you are going with your intuition. You're doing what's natural. You're believing what is true, which is that you're in control. You're feeling, you have a moment-to-moment lived experience of what is actually the truth, which is that you're in control. So we can talk about where you go from determination, but I just had to explain this anger process, because a lot of us have been really just being put through the ringer of anger and these fiery emotions. And I really hope that puts it in a place where you get it, you feel like you can use that to your benefit. And this is all about kind of raising the bar on your moment-to-moment conscious experience, guys. So send me questions in the comments. Wherever it was that you watched this video, it could have been lots of different places. But no matter where you saw it, there was a place to leave feedback. So bring me some questions. Let me know how useful this was. If these could be better in the future, we always want your feedback and your input, guys. So again, thanks for your time. My name is Jasvinder, and we'll talk soon. All right.